Aloha and welcome to Thumbing Through Yesterday, the podcast where we take our favorite books down from the shelf, dust them off, and remind ourselves why it is we love them so. My name's Tom Galley, and joining me today we've got Tony Pasculi.
Thanks, Tom.
What are we talking about today, Tony?
Today we're talking about one of my favorites. This is a Robert Silverberg novel called Lord Valentine's Castle.
This was a new one for me. I actually hadn't even heard of it. I thought I was a Silverberg fan, and then this cycle even is unfamiliar to me.
I have to confess, the cycle is unfamiliar to me too. I have only read this one book. I've read it a few times because I like it, but nothing about it compels me to read on. So take that for what it's worth. Yeah.
Well, then what makes this one a favorite?
Honestly, the first part of the book, more than, I would say the first 20% of the book where Lord Valentine is a juggler. That's my favorite part of the book. That's the part that always drags me back in. It's like, oh, that's so great. He's this, so Valentine is a guy who is technically the coronel of this entire world, but he's been zonked into another body. And so he doesn't know who he is. He's lost all his memories. And he's just this sort of good-natured but very talented man who runs into a bunch of people, becomes a juggler, learns it very, very quickly. And that whole arc is really just satisfying to me.
Okay.
That he's out there meeting people, making friends, learning a skill, having the time of his life. And then it kind of gets worse and worse and worse as he figures out, oh no, I'm actually in charge of this whole planet and I have to fight to get it back and I have to give up my friends. And it's like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the novel is divided into 5 books, and what I'm hearing from you is you liked book 1.
Pretty much, yes. I mean, it's all good. It's Silverberg. You can't go wrong. But I would say if we're talking about favorites, book 1 is my favorite, and the reason that this whole book is a favorite. And the rest I could take or leave, honestly. Yeah.
It's kind of, in a way, a bait and switch, because they pull us into liking Valentine as this, not simple-minded, but simple-natured, but like you said, highly talented and genuinely likable character. And then he proceeds to become less and less likable as the book proceeds. And one thing that I felt like he failed in, Silverberg failed in, is Valentine begins to become aware, hey, I'm supposed to be in charge. I have been, I have been ousted. This other guy has simply got to go. He's really a bad guy.
Yeah.
We're never given any reason to believe he's a bad guy. I mean, we get these sweeping statements about, oh, he's issuing bad laws. Yeah. But literally the only consequence we ever see is there's a vintner who goes out of business because the fake Cornell came through town and threw a big party and then didn't pay his bill.
Yeah.
I mean, that's evil. That's oversight,
I'm going to say that, overthrowing the legitimate government is evil on its face. Yeah. Unless you're doing it for some...
There's a point to be made there, okay?
and then that discussion that comes up often, he says, he wants the job, I don't. I'd rather be a juggler. He wants to run the world. Fine, let's leave it like that. And it was like, no, you can't.
Yeah, everybody, he gets pressured. He gets peer pressured into reclaiming his throne.
Yeah.
I don't know. The drive, well, I mean, there's a fascinating element in this with the use of dreams. Mm-hmm. The world has got four rulers, right? You have the Coronel, who is effectively the king. Yeah. You have the previous king, I don't remember his title. But the Pontifex, who hides on the island, who's actually the authority, but it's wielded by the Coronel. And then you have the king of evil dreams and the queen of sweet dreams.
Yes.
But they actually broadcast dreams, and some of them can be targeted to an individual, and some of them can be, just planet-wide sweeping things. Mm-hmm. Poor Valentine gets screwed because she who is in charge of good dreams has decided he needs to be back in the kingdom and sends him dreams that will not give him peace.
Well, She, the Lady of the Isle of Sleep, is his biological mother.
Yeah, and you want the best for your son, I assume. Yeah.
But also you want, your heir to be on the throne and not some random dude who knocked your heir into another body.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you get into the political intrigue side of it, right? This is a power play. This is ostensibly a power play by the king of Bad Dreams.
Yes.
Who's the one monarch we haven't identified by title yet.
And
won't do just quite yet to keep you, the audience, in suspense.
Oh, man. I don't remember what his title is.
It will
King
come
of
to
Dreams?
us, I'm sure.
I think he's just the King of Dreams.
Yeah, but the person who has taken the Cornelius place is his son. And they suspect, Valentine and Valentine's mother suspect that this is part of a plot for that king to replace the entire power structure with his own family.
Yes.
And they leave us with this, it turns out, misunderstanding of the plot right up until the very end. And honestly, I think that's one of the few redeeming qualities that might make me look into book 2 is the way that twists at the end. Because it turns from something that is so pedestrian and Shakespearean to something that suddenly becomes
interesting,
much more intriguing.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the King of Bad Dreams, his one function seems to be punishing people for behaving inappropriately. And apparently he's so effective that murder is almost unheard of on this world.
People are so scared of those bad dreams that they will not kill.
That's incredible. Like even in this coup, they don't kill the previous Valentine. They go to great lengths to force him into another body. Where he's still running around as a threat to their plans. And in fact undoes them. So that's staggering and very interesting, I think. To live in a world without murder, it's unthinkable to us.
Yeah, indeed. It shouldn't be. It
shouldn't be. I was just reading somewhere, the crime rate in D.C. is a thing right now and blah, blah, blah. And we're talking about what's an acceptable murder rate, and it's like, oh, it really should be less than 1 in 100,000. I'm like, really? Is that your bar? It should be.
Well, I agree. It should be less than 1 in 100,000 by about 1 in 100,000.
It should be less than 1 in 10 million. Murder should be so rare and so shocking that when anyone gets murdered anywhere in the country, it's national news. Like a murder is national news, but it's not because it happens all the time, every day, all over the country. So anyway, sidebar.
Yeah, a bit of a sidebar.
Yeah.
Now this, in my mind, this is a fantasy book that really wanted to be sci-fi. They had so many opportunities to lean into the sci-fi, or he had so many opportunities to lean into the sci-fi, and yet it's just there as window dressing.
Yeah. To me, this made me think about the distinction between fantasy and sci-fi.
Very much so.
Because the sci-fi, I mean, you could argue that it's sci-fi because they come from another planet and there's some high-tech stuff. For instance, the dream stuff is tech stuff and not magic stuff. But it functions like magic stuff. And this is a static society. It's been this way for 8,000 years. And that to me says fantasy. If you're in a static society and you have technology that no one knows how to reproduce, and then I don't care where it came from initially. Now it's fantasy. Yeah, this is not science fiction. So,
no, it's an interesting overlap of the Venn circles, I guess, because these people know that most of the characters. Well, I shouldn't even say that. Well, I guess the majority of the characters we're interacting with are human, and the humans know that their roots trace back to something called Earth.
Yeah.
And they know that they don't actually know how long they've been on this planet, but they know that their current system of government is about 8,000 years old.
Oh, they mentioned actually it's 14,000 years.
Did they mention that in there?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
But they also have non-humans running around on the planets that they recognize. These are aliens.
Yeah.
And they even have a space traveler who joins their party, albeit briefly, into very little impact.
Yes.
And like you said, the broadcast, the large broadcast of the dreams is hinted at. There's a technological component to it.
Yeah.
They talk about the machines that are in the basements of the castles that let the queen and the king send their dreams out. But he does it. Valentine does it unassisted initially. Not very well, not terribly effectively, but he does it unassisted. And then the queen, they finally make a connection, and she gives him this little circlet for his head that boosts his ability.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's a lot of talk about Valentine's sort of noble nature. I mean, and if they've been breeding people to be kings for 8,000 years, maybe there is something to that. That was a big thing with the British aristocracy, is that if you were born an aristocrat, you were inherently better than someone who was born a peasant. It wasn't just a title that you got by descent from your father. It was that you were inherently better. Your blood was better. Your literal blood was better than a common man's blood. And that comes up again and again here. He's literally a better person than everybody else.
Well, now he's inconsistent with this because they do talk about that. Silverberg does talk about that, but he also reminisces on the fact that anybody can become one of the positions of power, except for the pontifex, right? You have to go through Coronel to become pontifex, but anyone can become Coronel. Anyone can become the Queen of Dreams. Anyone can become the evil King of Sleep. He's not actually evil, but the King of Bad Dreams. These are not they don't have to be inherited positions, but we don't explore the mechanism by which that selection is done.
There's also a sense in which, it's like anybody could be Pope. Well, that's true, but you have to be a cardinal first, and then you have to know all the other cardinals, and you got to really, I don't know how true that is in this system. I think anyone who wasn't born and raised in Castle Mount has no shot of being Coronel.
Well, since his older brother was Coronel before him, it kind of strongly leans into the idea that, it might be one of those on paper, it's an open thing. Or again, like saying anybody can be president.
Exactly.
Technically true.
Yeah. All right. So what did you think of Majipoor, the world?
I wanted to see so much more of it. We're told repeatedly that Majipoor is really quite a big planet, although the gravity's a little bit lighter and the air's a little bit richer than whatever they remember of old Earth. But it's really quite a large planet. And they have a couple of, the Island of Sleep, for example, is called the Island of Sleep because it happens to be the smallest continent.
Yes.
It's still a continent. We're talking about Australia, perhaps, or something like that. We got to see a few neat alien things, and more often than not in the wildlife and the plant life. But I don't know. It was just one of the things that didn't work about this story for me is that it was so incredibly linear. There was absolutely no. This is like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign by a novice DM. They are, in fact, a series of encounters, but they are going to play out in this order, and there's only one way that they can resolve. There's never any doubt about how they're going to resolve.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we're told over and over again this is an enormous world, and there's 20 billion people inhabiting it, but it feels small. It doesn't feel like 20 billion people inhabit this world because people keep running into each other all over the place, and there's only 4 islands/continents, but at the same time, I was trying to get a handle on how large this world actually was, and there's a bunch of hints in here, and I haven't read the later books, so maybe it gets more specific. The only concrete information I could find is that the inland sea is 5,000 miles across, and looking at the map, I think you could say, well, maybe if you're counting that promontory, it's maybe 8 or 10,000. And then each of those continents on either side of the inland sea would be about 10,000. And then all of those fit on one side of the planet. So maybe the entire planet is 60,000 miles in circumference, which is 2.5 times the size of Earth. But I've read a fan article and it said it's at least 10 times the size of Earth, like 250,000 miles of circumference. And that seems insane to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't picture that.
Well, Silverberg is obsessed with making sure we know how many people live in every city, hamlet, and village that they come around.
Yeah.
How many millions of people are in this city, but it's not anything compared to the how many tens of millions are in this other city, but it's certainly more than the 2 million that were in the city they were just in. He wants us to be impressed by the scale of this, and he pays lip service to the enormous distance that they have traveled over the course of his quest. And it's not there. It's just not there.
Yeah.
There's no evidence of it. We don't share the miles. We don't share the struggles. If there's a random encounter along the road, we're privy to the random encounter. But,
Yeah. You could take the same story and plunk it down in a world that's a few thousand miles across.
You could put it in Rhode Island and it would still work. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's weird. Speaking of fantasy versus science fiction, though, it's interesting that they have to travel on foot or by boat because there are no airships on this planet. What?
Well,
why not?
That's not completely right, because they have anti-grav wagons.
Yes.
But they have to be drawn by, they're not propelled, they're drawn.
Yeah.
They have synthetic beasts to do the labor. And again, Silverberg is inconsistent with these. On the one hand, he tells us they are synthetic, they are tireless, they are indefatigable as long as you feed them every once in a while. And then later we have to stop and rest because they're tired.
Yeah.
Come on, Silverberg. Consistency is all we ask. That's not true. We ask so much more.
But it seems like on a world like this, airships would make so much sense. If you have floater technology, put it into flying machines and not carts. Yeah. And even if you don't have floater technology that works, if it's some sort of ground effect, airplanes are a thing. And they say, we don't have a lot of metal here. That's fine. You can make airplanes out of wood and paper. There's plenty of wood. There's plenty of trees. You could make hot air balloons. Yeah. And it would be so easy to get around on this planet with hot air balloons. Yeah. So.
Well, we don't see any evidence, and you kind of hinted at this earlier, we don't see any evidence of technology as a sense of development.
Yes.
Right? This is you said static, and I think that's the perfect word, right? It's like teapots exist.
Yes.
So we can work with steam as long as we're talking about a teapot.
Yeah.
It's never going to occur to anybody to make a bigger teapot and hook it to some sort of gear mechanism that you're going to hook to a paddle that hangs over the side of a canoe.
Yeah.
That's just asking too much. But teapots, we can do teapots.
Yeah, it's weird. And that to me, again, it's not just static. To me, science fiction is about exploring the consequences of something. Yeah. So if you have a thing, then it's like, oh, we could use it for this. Oh, but we could also use it for this. So you have the dark side of good inventions and the light side of bad inventions and the development of things as other people sort of latch onto the idea and it accelerates. That to me is what science fiction is about. And anything that treats technology as just like given and done reads like fantasy. Like Star Trek. A lot of Star Trek reads like fantasy to me. Okay. Star Wars, of course, total fantasy. But Star Trek also, they don't question the technology much. They don't. Occasionally there's an episode in Star Trek where they go, oh, you know what? Because the transporters take you apart and push you back together according to a template, we can use it to cure your disease by using an older copy of your template. But then they forget that for the next episode and they never cure anyone else's disease like that again. So, yeah.
Star Trek, I think, gets a bad rep because they had absolutely no clue what they were starting. This was it was supposed to be a spin-off of Wagon Train, just set in the stars, right? And the idea that it developed a cult following and then the religion and then its entire mythos, they never prepped for that. They just had a cool idea and did an episode,
I think Roddenberry's whole thing with Star Trek was not to explore technology. It was to explore social issues by putting them on other planets to get some emotional distance from them. It's like, oh, look, here's a society on this planet. It's not our society, of course, but look how they're just like ours, except for this one key difference. And then someone who's smart and rational can come in and go, hey, you're being crazy right now. So.
Yep.
So this reminded me a bit of, especially the beginning, Nine Princes in Amber, the first book in the Amber cycle.
I can see that because in both times we have a protagonist who starts without knowing who they are.
Yes, and they have to find their way in the world, and that first part is the most exciting part to me, especially in Nine Princes in Amber also. But then also it concludes with a long fight up a very tall hill. Yeah.
So it does.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I really did enjoy that climactic battle.
Yeah.
The fact that Valentine's entire premise was less get me to the hill than it was get me to the hill without killing anyone.
Yeah.
And the lengths that they went to try and avoid conflict, to either run away from it, run around it, or subvert the people who were facing them type of deal. That was kind of nice. That was because usually when it's the guy reclaiming the throne, it's just blood and violence and revenge.
Yeah.
Which would have been much more Shakespearean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you throw your lot in with the evil king, then you're evil. Yeah.
Well, they didn't. Aside from the actual counterfeit coronel, nobody knew that they were doing that. They were all being loyal to who they were convinced was their rightful leader.
And Valentine talks about that a lot. But then also lots and lots of sendings go out so that by the time the actual confrontations are about to take place, people know. They know.
People know that there's a division because they're getting conflicting sendings.
That's true.
From the king of bad dreams and the queen of good dreams.
Yes.
And we actually have a general, I think, who's like, I don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
My favorite was the city that just said, closed their doors and said, nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're staying out of this one.
All right. What else about this one? I mean, that's it mostly for me. I mean, I think we covered all of my talking points.
The characters in this thing were all so incredibly one-dimensional, except for Valentine, of course. Yeah. But everyone else they're there to be a thing. Mm-hmm. The four-armed juggler, head of the juggling troupe, is there to be abrasive and miserly.
Yes.
His female friend is there to be unquestioningly supportive.
Yeah.
Oh. This is something that just drove me up the wall.
Yeah.
Up until we talk about Valentine actually marching on the throne, mm-hmm. every single time they encounter a new person, and someone says to them, this is actually the Coronel. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, okay, let me throw in with you.
Yeah.
You don't have a single instance of a person even going, really?
Yeah.
No, they just buy into it, hook, line, and sinker. So one of the things, 14,000 years of peace has done is to reestablish gullibility as a survival trait.
Interesting. I took that not as gullibility and more of this sort of noble blood thing, that people who encountered him in person just went, oh, well, that's why you're like glowing like that.
But you've got these secondhand events, like when they're separated by the river, and then Valentine reconnects. I can't remember the other characters' names, but the female interest that's chasing him around from the juggling team and the
Carabella. Yeah.
Carabella, and then the accountant. They, in their respective villages on the shores they had washed up with, had spread the word, and people just, okay, we're in.
Yeah.
So when Valentine shows up, he's got this, and he's unhappy at that time because he's trying to fly under the radar. Not that they have radar, and or flying, but he's trying to be covert, right? So that was just something that stuck with me all the way through. Is I don't know what it is that would make these people so accepting of such a stunning claim, which is fine. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of difference when we get to the end, but it was just. I don't know if it's indicative of a fundamental characteristic of humanity on this planet. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Didn't like it.
It's interesting, too, that humans, so there's multiple alien races here, but humans control the government. Just absolutely, all four branches, without question, and there's no pushback from anyone else. Well, except for the one exception, which is the twist. And that's, it's like, I mean, they were there first. Yeah, but you just think like, why is there not representation for Skandars in the government? Why is there not representation for Runes in the government?
And you've got the new counterfeit Coronel is actually one of the first edicts he issues is that humans have to be included in every endeavor.
Yes.
So he's actually pushing in the other direction.
Yeah.
Without which we don't have a plot and we don't get Valentine.
Yeah. On
the road with the jugglers.
Yeah, no troop of four-armed jugglers is going to hire a two-armed juggler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, one thing we haven't talked about, humanity took this world.
Yes.
14,000 years ago. There was another race there, another civilization there of shapeshifters, and they're still around, but they have divorced themselves from human affairs, and we don't think that many of them left.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that the next two books we would get a lot better look into them and their culture.
One hopes.
One hopes, because that ends up being, this is something I thought he did so very, very well.
Interesting.
And it's not I was blindsided by the way the book ended the same way I was blindsided by the revelation of the Scrode Riders in The Fire Upon the Deep. Mm-hmm. In that it's something that's been present through the whole book, and it's been presented so consistently in one aspect of the whole book that when it suddenly turns out to have another facet to it, mm-hmm. It just took me completely off guard.
What I found interesting about the indigenous race is that this book treats them pretty badly.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
And we usually, it seems like we're dancing around a secret reveal here.
Yeah.
And the assumption is always that people have read the book when they're listening to this. But the indigenous are shapeshifters.
Yes.
And because they're shapeshifters, everybody knows humanity can't abide shapeshifters.
Yeah.
And I don't know that would be untrue. I mean, there's
I think they would be very popular in certain circles.
probably so. But the idea, they're not even second-class citizens. They're simply tolerated on the world.
Yeah.
And it is, unless you're in one of the really densely populated areas, it's unusual to encounter one.
Yeah, yeah. And they retreat to reserves. And, one of the things, to Valentine's credit, he goes, hey, why are we treating them so shabbily? They should have some representation. They're citizens of this planet too. But they retreated basically to like a reservation. But then they're portrayed as just straight up evil. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get to see them in anything sympathetic.
Yeah.
Being ignored by them is the closest we can come to that.
Yeah. And I'm fine with evil races. That's fine. I have no issue with that. I'm just saying that is not a thing that would be likely to fly today. I don't think you could write a book where humans take over a world from an indigenous species, and it's fine because they're all evil. And so we just sort of shove them to the side. I can't imagine that being successful. But this is from 1979, so yeah.
Oh, it's not that old.
That's pretty old. It's 46 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Math is so unforgiving.
It is. It's also 2 years post Star Wars, which makes me wonder how much, because the static quality of the science fiction here reminds me very much of Star Wars, in the sense that there's a lot of tech flying around, but it's very tropey and it's all old. Everything is old in Star Wars. That was its sort of defining visual thing. Yeah, it was the first science fiction where you saw old shit.
That's true. Well, I don't know. I mean, you had Blade Runner and you had Alien.
Well, those were a little later. Blade Runner is, Star Wars is 77. I think Blade Runner is 79 and Alien is 79 or 80. Yeah.
I was very young at the time. I love that. I mean, for quite a while, actually, that became the thing. The future was old and run down and usually rainy.
Yeah, well, that was Ridley Scott's contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically took Tokyo, transplanted it to L.A., moved it 50 years into the future, and said, "This is it. This is what science fiction is going to look like from now on." Yeah.
Yeah. But with the we're getting a little off here. With the Star Wars trope, with the three movies that were chronologically made first, right? This is after the fall of something. It's in the decline and fall of better time.
Yes.
So, one of the things, I mean, there's so little for an adult to like about numbers 1, 2, and 3. But one of the things I think that they got wrong was that I felt like we should have seen a brighter, shinier, newer society, so that there was some evidence that it was falling by the time we got to 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I think the prequels were too close to the time of the main trilogy, so we didn't get to see that. What we did get to see, and I was super excited about, is we got to see for the first time 2 Jedi in their prime, as opposed to a brand new one and an ancient, decrepit one. And that turned to be less exciting than I hoped it would be.
Yeah, but there was a sweet moment. They board one of the ships, one of the trader ships that are doing the blockade, and the captain looks and he sees that there are 2 Jedi on his ship, and he looks at the second mate and he says, "We will not survive this." So, there are 2 people on our warship.
Yes.
We will not survive this.
Our warship, which is stocked with battle drones. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And part of the fleet.
Yeah.
And they did, in fact, survive it. But that, oddly enough, does not make it into this book.
Okay. End Star Wars tangent.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm curious, having read this again, I think this is my 3rd time through or 4th time through, I'm still not inclined to push on. Are you? Are you like, I'm curious enough now to read the second book?
I'm not. He almost got me, because this ends up being a secret plot from an unexpected vector, and it's almost enough to make me tune in for chapter 2 or for installment 2. But oh my God, this thing just never ended. It just kept going and going and going.
There wasn't enough plot for 500 or 600 pages. Yeah, no. It really kind of...
So this reminded me, in a way, of L. Ron Hubbard's Mission Earth, in that it's 10 volumes long. His Mission Earth is 10 volumes long, but it just keeps going and going and going and almost nothing happening.
Yeah, okay. That's a problem.
So yeah, I mean, this was a lot of book for a little bit of plot. And again, it would have been fine if the encounters were more interesting, but again, these are cookie cutter. A difficulty is encountered, a difficulty is endured, a difficulty is overcome, and the difficulty is just a little bit novel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're getting eaten by a plant.
You mentioned the structure. There are 5 books and there are 4 islands. And so it was kind of contrived that we go, we start off on the one that doesn't have any, that's the farthest away. And then we proceed to the Isle of Sleep. And then we proceed to the main island where the Pontifex live, and we visit the labyrinth, and then we go up to the Castle Mount. Yeah, so we kind of just progress, bonk, 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 through the various major stations of this planet. And again, that's something that makes the planet feel smaller than it's supposed to be, because you can just go from one to the other. We skip the Isle of Sleep, or no, whatever the King of Bad Dreams island is called. Yeah, I forget. That comes in a later book, I'm pretty sure. But it just, it shrinks the world, and it does sort of take us through everything, which is nice, but in a very linear fashion. So it just kind of, it's unsatisfying.
Not his strongest work, I don't think.
I can't remember any other Silverberg. I don't think I've read any other Silverberg novels. I mostly know him as a short story writer.
I think actually that was the idea that I came up with, because I had the impression I like Silverberg.
Yeah.
And then I started looking at his list of novels. I'm like, I know almost nothing on this list, but I know that I like him. And I think it's because I used to subscribe to several sci-fi pulps, and he was a frequent contributor to such things.
Yeah. In fact, I can't think of another Silverberg book that I've read. But he did write, for instance, he wrote a short story called Microcosmic God, which is one of my all-time favorite short stories.
And yet he has won multiple Hugo and Nebulas.
Yeah.
It seems a shame we don't know his body of work better.
All right. If only we're doing a podcast about unknown favorites. But no. Sorry, Robert Silverberg.
The next evolution, right? The next iteration.
All right. So that's it for me on Lord Valentine's Castle. I'll probably read it again at some point, just because I find the beginning so compelling and so fun, and then I'll plod through to the end and then kind of go, that's enough of that. But yeah. What's next for us?
Well, next we're gonna bend the rules just a little bit. We can talk about that next time, but we're gonna do A Deepness in the Sky by Werner Vinge.
Exciting.
All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.